Appreciate you all being up here. We are back on. All right, I have Bob. Is that your name?
For TikTok purposes, yeah.
TikTok purposes, your name is Bob. Cool. All right, so are you over 18 and do you disagree with something I have on the board?
I am over 18. The only one thing I would disagree with is America was never great. I'd say it was great prior to colonization.
That's a W. Yeah, true.
On a technicality, no, but it was never even named that. I mean, that's like colonial language as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, cool. I appreciate you being up here, though, man. I'm going to go ahead and look for some opposition, all right?
All right. Have a good evening.
You too. All right, y'all. Go ahead and like the live, start sharing it. Go ahead and like the live, start sharing it. I appreciate everybody being up. I got a new gift goal up. Go ahead and start liking the live and start sharing it. Go ahead and start coming in here. Y'all go ahead and like this live, man. Let's get us to 1,000 in a few minutes. Let's get us to 1,000, and let's go ahead and shout out everybody, yo. Shout out everybody who's gonna be watching me on YouTube. Shout out everybody watching me out there right here on TikTok and on Facebook. I appreciate you all. I just got to bring a few things up. Now, if you disagree with anything I have on the board, go ahead and come on up. We had some good discussions last time. Only problem is I had internet issues. I'm not sure what was going on with that. Who is your favorite president? I don't think I have one. I don't think I have one. I would probably say Carter. Either Carter, Eisenhower was pretty. He was pretty. He was pretty honest. I'll say Eisenhower was pretty honest, pretty noble. I do not like Trump. No. Gene, how's it going?
Hi. Do you want me to give you my age, race, and pronouns?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, my name's Gene. 25. Black. He, him, they, them pronouns. I do have a question about being woke. Every time I hear people say woke, it's just like it's like a soft N word.
Of
It
course.
just sound like
No, I was just saying. Of course, I agree.
yeah. 'Cause like when they say like oh like someone's being woke and stuff over that, I'm just like no they just realizing that certain things are right and stuff like that. And they just like misuse the word, and that's mostly white people who would be using it. Um, so what's your opinion on woke, if you don't mind asking?
Woke is basically what we came up with. The it's awareness of racial and social injustice.
Yeah, it was forgot his name. He was like a Jamaican. No wait, I think he was Haitian. Marcus Garvey. I
He was
think he
Jamaican.
coined.
Yeah, Marcus Garvey was Jamaican.
He coined that term.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
but
coined it from a long
mostly
time ago.
yeah, but mostly white people always misuse it. And to the fourth point, there's no good evidence for God. I agree because there's really none. Because I remember my brother-in-law tried to debate me on it, and I told him like, okay, can you show me proof there isn't God? And like he was like, how I can show it to you? And he's just so quiet about it. So I'm just like, yeah. So if you're gonna argue with me with that,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, you know how
But
that go.
I've been watching your lives for a hot minute. I really want to come up and like say like you're doing a great job, sir.
I appreciate you, Gene.
Yeah.
I gotta go ahead and move on to the opposition, but I appreciate you being here and definitely follow me and subscribe to all my channels. I appreciate you.
Okay, I already follow you on this one. But I'm gonna drop down.
I got you. Appreciate you, Gene. Alrighty. John, I'm gonna get to you next. But right now I have Marshall. Marshall, how's it going?
Hey, sir, thank you for having me up.
Not a problem. Are you over 18 and do you disagree with something I have on the board?
Yes, I'm 40. I'm a white conservative Christian nationalist, and I would like to go through your list, please.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead. You can start at anyone you like.
I'll start with the top. America was never great. I disagree. I believe America was always great. And if I could go through them, and then if you want to, can if that's okay, if that is that the rules?
Yeah, yeah. That's usually my rule. Go ahead and tell me which one you disagree with, and we go ahead and talk about it, and we move on to the next.
Okay.
So, do you disagree with all of them, or just a few of them? Whoa, you are breaking up there. You're in the matrix, my friend.
Great when I believe it when it was.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Can
there
you
you
hear
go.
me now?
That's better. Go ahead, say that again.
Okay, so as a white conservative Christian, I think that America was great when it was whiter because that was when it was safer. Um, Being woke is a perversion of everything that's right and true. Um, Reparations for Black Americans, I don't think Black people deserve reparations. I believe they lost their way and now they are a hindrance to our civilization. Um, Jesus is the evidence for God. Faith in Jesus only comes if He gives you faith in Him. Um, Holy books are not evidence. The people who want to denounce evidence would say that. Um, Democratic socialism is cancer, and capitalism is the best way.
Wow. So we have an avowed racist on the stage. Appreciate you, bro. All right. So yeah, you believe that America was great when it was whiter. And you said it was safer. Safer for who?
Safer for everybody.
It wasn't safer for people who look like me, because someone like you can
It's a lot worse off for
someone
people
like
who
you,
look like you
someone
now.
like you could lynch me for no apparent reason, just for looking at a white woman, and that's not safe, is it?
Those were not legal in the majority of the United States, and you had to have a reason to do it. Also, blacks are a lot more worse off now. They don't have their families. They're more likely to get STDs and be locked up, and
All of this
they
is
have just
incorrect.
lost their way.
Yeah, all this is incorrect. You said that those were mostly illegal. They literally took pictures of it, and cops were there, so it wasn't illegal. It was sanctioned by
It might
state
not,
actors. It was
right?
sanctioned.
It
It
might
was
be
sanctioned
illegal
by state actors. How was that safe for people who look like me?
because for the majority of the United States that wasn't the case, and they were still a lot better off
What are
back
sundown
then.
towns?
They didn't.
What are sundown towns?
I think sundown towns are towns that have laws that basically discriminate against blacks.
A sundown town is a town where if someone who looks like me is there after the sun goes
Mhm.
down, we would get lynched.
hmm
And there are hundreds of thousands
I
of them.
don't.
There are hundreds of thousands of them across the South, the Midwest, and even the West Coast. How is that safe?
Because I don't think that's an issue now, and that wasn't an issue for the majority of the United States.
What is vital? It was an issue for the majority of the United States. Most sundown towns are in the Midwest. There's over 1,000 of them in the Midwest. Really?
Yeah, but that wasn't the case for every single sundown town.
I'm not saying that's the case for every single town. I'm saying every single sundown town had this rule. If you were a black person at night
Yeah.
and you were caught there,
Well, I mean, there's
you were
rules for
murdered.
everybody.
You were murdered.
I
How is
don't. I
that
don't
safe?
think that was the case.
How is that safe?
I don't think that was the case.
It is
I
the
think
case.
you're conflating.
If you think that wasn't the case, you're just lying to yourself.
Yeah, I
Which
don't
is
think that was
okay
the case.
because racism means you have to lie to yourself. So
Well, I think you are lying to yourself, sir.
you're the one who said that America was safe when there were more white people. That's
Yes,
literally
it
racism.
was. Even with the
That's
sundown
literally
towns, black
racist.
people
Even
are still more safer.
no, we weren't, because we were killed for looking at white women.
Yes,
How is
we
that
were.
safe?
Yeah.
How is
And
it
now
safe
you,
for
and
how is
now
it
it's the
how is it
same
safe
thing
for me?
when you
How
walk
is it
down the street
how is
and
it
you
safe for
go
me?
to the
How is
wrong
it safe for me?
Popeyes.
How is it safe for me? How is it safe for me to walk down the street, look at a white woman, and be murdered? How is that safe? Yeah, exactly. All right. So, Johnny, how's it going? There's one of the guys who are on your side there. So, you said something about reparations in the comments. I'm assuming that you disagree with what's I have on the board.
Yeah, I do. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I do disagree with that reparations because I mean, if you're gonna go back, I mean, what about the Union soldiers' families that fought in the
Do
war?
you agree with your fellow conservative that America was great because there were white people?
That was great because I mean, I'm not gonna comment on what he said. To be honest with you, I mean, his comments. I will say this: looking back on history, my perspective would be totally different than yours. Obviously, because I'm Caucasian, white male, that's around the same age as the last guy. So, looking back on history, my perspective would be different, unless, you know,
Mhm.
I was to shift it and to think like,
Right, but
like you.
it's amazing that people like him think like that, right?
Well, there's a yeah, and I think it comes from a lot of being ignorance I think being sheltered a lot.
Yeah, and a lot of them seem to be on the right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem that the left has. So when you talk about reparations, you were talking about the Union soldiers, correct?
Yeah, the families.
Yeah, they
I mean, if we're gonna go far back, you know what I mean. If we're gonna families of families are gonna get monies for this.
give me a second. Kay, I'm going one on one right now. So when it comes to the Union soldiers, number one, that has nothing to do with reparations at all. I'm not sure why you think they would get it, because reparations is more than just slavery. It's about the effects of slavery. So did the Union soldiers' families get redlined? Did they what happened with them? Did they go
What do you
through
mean?
black
They
codes?
fought and died to help free the
Unders-
blacks.
Right, but they didn't go. They didn't go to help free the blacks. They went to help keep the nation together. That was Lincoln's entire
Okay,
thing.
that right
But
there could be a perspective view. That right there could just be a perspective view. You know what I mean?
but Lincoln literally said that. He said if I could keep the nation together and not free any slave, I would do it. So he wasn't going for that.
Lincoln quoted that.
Yeah,
I
Lincoln
I
said
would
that.
have to. I would have to pull that up. I don't know if Lincoln quoted that. I'd have to take your word on it.
Okay. So, but the other thing that I would say is that when we talk about reparations, it's not just for slavery; it's for the effects of slavery. The kids of Union soldiers, their descendants, unless they intermarried with black people, they never went through Jim Crow, black codes, redlining, or the war on drugs or anything like that. So why would they get reparations?
Right. Well, I see it as life lost. Life lost. Fighting to help free your people. You know, that's what I see it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if that war wasn't fought, where would we be today?
We will probably have more slave rebellions today because, Haiti exists. So there'll probably be
So I
even more
mean,
slave rebellions.
I just don't think reparations will even. I mean, it's talked about. I just don't even think it'll be. I don't think it'll be ever be something that'll ever happen. Honestly.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna see it in my lifetime, but we should talk about it and make sure that it happens, because the one thing that I've always said is that one question I always ask for people who are skeptical or against reparations, I always ask them the same thing: should the government pay for the things that they damaged?
Should they? Should the government pay? Well, I mean, that can. Oh man, that can go so many ways. Yeah, I mean, should the government pay for things they damage? Well, that means liability.
Hmm.
Is the government liable for, say? So you're saying the government's liable
Hmm.
for things that happened before the country was formed?
No, I'm saying the government's liable for the damage that they cause, and if they were complicit in damaging the African American community, why shouldn't they pay that?
Okay, that's like they should pay for the systemic flow of crack cocaine from the 80s into black communities now.
Yes.
You know, because that was targeted. Look at, I mean, Planned Parent. I mean, you could go down the list, but I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting topic. I don't, like I said, I don't see it happening, or in our lifetimes. But and America, as far as it being great, like I said, man, it depends on perspective, I guess, and I don't know. I'm a 40-year-old white guy that grew up in the suburbs, you know, so I haven't had much exposure to many of your people, to be honest with you. I'm not racist,
Hmm.
but you know what I mean. There, you come across people that are ignorant and don't. I don't know. They don't travel.
Right. So one thing that I've always said is that I said this to before my live went down before. I said that when it comes to white people, even white conservatives, I do think that a majority of them are not actually hateful racists. It's just all built on racial ignorance. But that racial ignorance does cause racist thoughts and emotions and beliefs to happen, especially political beliefs to happen. Like, for example, I would probably, when it comes to like policing, for example, The difference between what I would see and what a suburban conservative white person would see is that I see the police as more of a threatening force in our community. But over in white suburbia, they're just friendly people who keep the peace. They're not like that in my community, especially towards my community. You see what I'm saying? So
Right.
that ignorance is what's there, and then because of that, you have a bunch of white people saying, "Oh, if they don't have any drugs on them, they'll be fine. If they don't have any guns on them, they'll be fine. If they don't have it, if they'll, if they're not breaking any crimes, they'll be fine." What they're not seeing is that even if you're not breaking a crime, our skin color is seen as a crime, but that doesn't happen in white suburbia. But it does happen over in the black community. So that's where that comes from. It's not hatefulness, but it is a large degree of ignorance that leads to racist beliefs. That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. Yes, and I think a lot of it is a narrative that people are fed. What's out there and what they put the spotlight on in the news. I mean, every news is biased in my opinion. So I don't know. I kind of don't lean right or left. Um, but anyways, thanks for having me on. I don't really have much more to say.
All right, not a problem, JP. I appreciate you.
All right.
All right, y'all. Keep going, keep liking it live, and keep sharing it. I am doing just one-on-one for right now. I will bring on, everyone who's a friendly, like at the end of the show, before we could go ahead and keep on talking. Go ahead and keep liking it live and keep sharing it. I appreciate everybody who's watching me on YouTube right now and on all the other socials. I appreciate y'all. Rob, you've been crashing out in the comments for the past 15 minutes, and I've already invited you up. If you keep crashing out, I'm just going to go ahead and remove you because I don't chat to the comments. Go ahead and come up on the live if you like. Okay, we got Crucial. Crucial, you there?
Yeah, what's up?
I'm all right. Are you over 18 and do you disagree with something I have on the board?
Yeah, I'm 26, so we're all good.
All right, cool. Do you disagree with something I have on the board?
Well, I guess I mean a bunch of things personally, but first of all, like I just got here, so I don't know what the previous conversations were. To be fair, so I don't know if this is gonna be repetitive, but
All good. Go ahead.
I mean, if you look at so time is the only factor when it comes to slavery that would be in regards to like reparations, right? Because every culture throughout history has been slaves at one point or another. White people have been slaves, black people have been slaves, Indian people have been slaves, Asian people have been slaves. So the point is like we all can agree that slavery is bad, right? So if the question for reparations is that, oh, there was a bad thing that happened, aka slavery, and thus people were, I don't know, put in a worse spot because of it, then we should pay them money. Then everyone in the entire world should be paid money.
We're talking about America.
Yeah, and there were white people, they're British, that came and imported to America that were slaves. There were white slaves in America.
Which ones? If you swipe out the app, I can't hear you. You might have gotten a phone call. So come on back whenever you hear this. Oh, there you are. Yeah, if you swipe out the app, I can't hear you, but you might have gotten a phone call. So it's one of those. All right. So yeah, which white person was a slave in America, or which culture of white people were slaves in America?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to pull up Google so I could pull it up, but
It wasn't the Irish. I'll tell you that right
no,
now.
no, it wasn't the Irish. It was the British. There were British slaves in America
They were
early on
British.
in its onset when America first started getting colonized.
Hmm.
British slaves were brought here.
They were indentured servants. They weren't any slaves.
What would you define difference between indentured servitude and slavery?
Indentured servitude is only for a certain amount of time, and you're still a person. You're not property. Slaves were property.
Again, I was trying to pull up the exact information. That's why I was trying to pull off of screen. But my point is like, again, throughout the dawn of history, every race has been a slave, one form or another. Even if, okay, let's say in the aspect of like America, right? America, you have black slaves. So does this mean, from your point of view, that I believe it was, oh God, I'm trying to recall history now, but white slavery occurred way early on, obviously when nations conquered other nations. So because I'm white, does that mean that, let's say hypothetically, there were white slaves in India? Does that mean India should pay me reparations because I'm white?
Yeah, sure, why not?
So it just becomes a circle,
No, not really.
theoretically.
Here's the thing. This is really uh, like this hypothetical and what we're talking about is really besides the point, bro. In the United States, the group of people who were here in the United States and who were oppressed, not just from slavery, but by the effect of slavery, were African Americans. The government and private companies were complicit in that. The government especially put in policies that damaged African Americans. Why should they not pay that? When we're talking about like white slaves and everything like that, I understand that in the beginning of like colonial history and stuff like that, there were the Barbary states who took slaves from Greece. There were the Barbary states that enslaved some Americans and made them build ships, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The Barbary states don't exist anymore. The Barbary states never imposed anything in America that made white Americans not be able to own a home or deem them second class citizens or put drugs in their neighborhoods, anything like that. You feel me? The United States government did that to African Americans. So the question is not about, all over the world had slavery. Fine, all good and well. But we're talking about the United States and what the American government here did to the African Americans. We know that history and we can prove it definitively. Why should they not pay that damage?
So, I mean, looking at it now, so we're looking at it from today's perspective, like, are people deservative of money because of something that didn't happen to them? So I could see, for instance, if you wanted to argue like reparations for a group that was actively, like, just came out of the repercussions of slavery. But we're talking about generations at this point. So, for instance, like yourself, if you were to be one that would receive reparations, right? Why would you receive reparations? You were not a slave.
I'll receive reparations from France because my parents are from Haiti. So I'll receive it from France for all the damage that the French and the United States government has done to Haiti.
Okay, but I'm asking personally from your perspective. You were never a slave. Why do you deserve reparations?
I just told you. France caused damage to Haiti, so I should get reparations for that.
See, I don't follow that logic. That's it's like, so for
Let
my
me ask you. Let me ask you a question. If I were to if I were to hit you with my car, and you break your leg, does my insurance or do I out of pocket pay for your hospital bill?
if you were to hit me with your car and break your leg,
Yeah.
does
If
your
let's
insurance?
say I'm being reckless one day, and you're walking, you're taking a jog, and I drive around the corner, hit you with my
Mhm.
car, like I ran past a stop sign, hit you with my car, and let's say I have the money. I don't have insurance, but I do have the money. Like let's say I got $100,000 in the bank, and
Mhm.
your hospital bill is $10,000. Should I pay that?
If you, well, it's a question of who was at fault,
I
right?
was at fault. I
So
ran
you
a
were at
stop
a higher
sign and I
person.
hit you, and you break your leg. Your hospital bill is $10,000. I have $300,000 in the bank. Should I pay you?
I would say yes, you are the liable party at
Right.
fault.
In my analogy, America is the person in the car, and the person who's walking is black people. That's what happened. So why should if America caused damage to black people, why should they not pay it?
So I could see that perspective, but my one question is this act in your theoretical example of like breaking the other party's leg. This would have happened to someone that is no longer with us. This isn't like it happened to you. You did not get hit by the car in this example. You're like the kid of the person that got hit by the car. Like, do you deserve money because your parent was hit by a car? I don't think so.
Oh, you want to go ahead and go to that example because there actually is real life examples of that too. Like if let's say not only did I hit you with the car, right? I unalived you. Are your kids gonna get compensation?
I
They are.
feel like we're
I work in insurance. They are.
this, I feel like this example is kind of a poor example for this though.
It's
But
not. It's not. I work in insurance. If I hit you with my car and I unlive you, your kids will get compensation for that.
I mean, yes, but again, I don't think this is a very good example for going back to slavery, to be instance.
Do you know what redlining is?
I do not know.
Okay, see, that's the problem. Because remember, I didn't say just slavery. I said the effects of slavery, such as black codes, Jim Crow, the war on drugs, and redlining. Redlining still affects African Americans today. Redlining was a system where African Americans were not allowed to purchase homes, and insurance companies would only not insure those areas. Grocery stores will not go to those areas. Hospitals will not be in those areas, and affected the education system. The reason why the schools in like a lot of project areas are so bad is because schools are funded through property taxes, and redlining made it so African Americans largely cannot own a home, so there are less property taxes.
So again, goes back to like the idea of like punishing for your father's sins, right? Like you're responsible for your father's sins. Have you heard that argument before? Right? So the idea behind this is like if my father, for instance, were to kill someone and he was supposed to go to jail or whatever, should I, as his son, just because I'm his son, bear any responsibility for my father's actions?
You're not bearing responsibility for your father's actions, and no one's saying that.
But we are. If we're doing reparations, where is that money coming from?
The government. No one's asking you
Where
personally.
does the government get its money from?
The government gets its money from us, the taxpayers. But you're
Correct.
not the only
So-
taxpayer, are you?
No, but it's fair to say then that part of my taxes would then be getting redirected directly to someone else for the sins of, in this situation, my father.
Yeah, because the government did a bad thing. It's not you
And
paying it; the government is paying
I'm
it.
paying for the. Yeah, no, I am paying for it though. That's my tax money.
And I am too because it's my tax money. It's a wash.
It's not though, because you then receive money back in return. I don't receive money for the reparations, do I?
No, you wouldn't receive money for reparations unless you were affected by what the government did. So your argument. So your argument is that if the government does something wrong, they shouldn't pay for it because I don't want to pay my taxes. That's nonsense.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that. I'm asking. So it's back to the idea of like who's at fault, right?
The
So if-
government. We already established that.
Yes, okay, but the government is just it's just a title, right? So who specifically the government? It was the people operating the government. Those people that were operating the government are no longer with us, right? At those times and periods of time, the people that were the quote unquote government that were running the government are no longer with us.
The government-owned company that started redlining still exists today.
Well, then that company, not the government, the company should be at fault.
It's a government-ran company,
Well,
It was-
then
it was
that's
a
a whole
gov-
different, it's
right,
a
it
whole
was-
different situation.
and it was a government
So-
policy. So it was a government policy that damaged African Americans. So why shouldn't the government then put in policies to repair them?
Because the issue is so the money isn't just printed, and if the money is printed, that's a question of inflation. So the money that's coming to you from reparations, right, has to come from someone, aka someone's pockets. And in this case, the money the government would be giving away is coming from everyone's taxes, which means I am now giving money for the sins that I did not commit.
Like how
And
we did,
someone else is getting benefits that that they did not experience.
like how
So
we did for the
now we have
Japanese,
inequality.
like how we did for the Japanese.
I am not familiar with the example you're bringing up.
We gave the Japanese reparations, bro.
And again, was it the people that actually conducted the actions that were
The
initiated?
government gave Japanese reparations. Reagan signed it in 1988.
And again, I wouldn't agree with it.
That's
I
fine.
don't
You won't
think-
agree
I
with
think
it, but the
any-
fact of the
I don't
matter
think any
is,
reparations would
I understand
be-
that you won't agree with it, but the fact of the matter is that we already have, what's that word I'm looking for? We already have, was it precepts? We already have, this is something that already happened, so we know it that it can be done. But but my problem and my issue is that we still haven't reached to the point of if the government does something wrong, you're saying that they shouldn't pay for it because you weren't there. That makes no sense to me.
No, I'm saying that that time when the action was committed or the wrong time was committed, there is a certain like mm,
Are the effects still exist?
time frame.
Are the effects still here though?
I mean, you can argue that anything that has happened in history has effects that are present today. It's just a matter of how much effects are present.
And
So again,
we've seen the effects of redlining. There's a reason why the projects exist. It's because of redlining.
okay, so now look at it from my perspective, right? So now I myself, the money that I pay the government is now going to somebody else and I don't get any money. So it's like unfair treatment, so to speak, right? So why am I getting punished for something that I didn't do and I am not receiving reparations?
You ain't getting punished, bro.
Yes, I am. I'm not getting the same treatment as somebody else because of the basis of their skin.
Yeah, you are getting the same treatment. How are you being treated differently? I don't understand what are you talking about?
One person is receiving, let's say it's $1,000. One person is receiving $1,000 because they are African American, and one person is not receiving $1,000 because they are white.
So
That's discrimination.
no, it's reparations.
It's quite literally treating somebody different based upon the color of their skin and not their actions. It's discrimination.
No, it's not discrimination. What would be discrimination is if that because that you're white, you can't own a home, which is what the government did to black people.
I'm saying, okay, but today, for instance, for yourself, because you are African American, does that mean you cannot own a home?
No, that law is no longer in place anymore, but it still
Okay.
happens.
What do you mean it still happens?
Bank of America and Navy Federal Credit Union were all sued just last year for discriminating against black applicants.
Okay, and so they got sued, and I assume they got caught and thus had to pay out.
Yeah, it's something that still happens. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay, and they were the party at fault, right?
Yeah,
So
and the government
they
was the
had to
party.
pay out.
Right, and the government was the party at fault when it comes to redlining. So why shouldn't they fix that? I'm still very confused why you think that the government shouldn't fix the actions that they caused.
I'm not. Okay, I'm saying that the government is not. It's a bad term.
Sorry about that. Say that again.
No, it's all right. In my opinion, I think we should discern the government from the time at which the act was committed. So, for instance, I mean, you're talking about a company or organization versus a political body or a group of representatives. So, again, it's back to the party at fault, and where's the money coming from?
The party at fault is the federal government because look, when Japanese got reparations in the 80s, it wasn't the same government that was in the 40s that interned them in those camps. It wasn't the same government. It was 40 years later. So now that we're 40 years later after redlining, you're saying that we shouldn't fix the problem? Like I'm still not understanding why shouldn't the government fix a problem that they caused? This is
I'm saying that we should learn from history, and instead of repeating either mistakes or discrimination, we should just treat everyone equally.
and
right?
it's not, and the way that we should do
Isn't
it
that
is
a fair statement to make? Is that everyone should
we
be treated
should be treated everyone equally, but it's not happening.
okay? And if it's not happening, they should be punished.
Right.
This is again back to the perspective of now versus what happened in the past.
Right. So how do you punish the government?
How do you punish the government?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
The government the government treated black people unequally, so they should be punished for that, right?
So, okay, but the issue is that the government is the is the people. It is the United States.
Yeah, and the people don't treat black people equally either.
How do the people not treat black people equally?
We see this in society. We see this in healthcare. And we also see it in real estate, and we also see it in employment, and we also see it in social perception. There's a social perception of like black men who are the same height and same build as their counterparts of white men are seen as more dangerous, are seen as stronger, and are seen as older as well, and are seen as more violent. So there's already a social stigma against just being the skin color.
So again, if there's anyone actively discriminating at this day and age, then they should face consequences. Yes, I agree. Because everyone we agree should be treated equally, unlike what happened in the past where people were not treated equally. We can all agree on that, right?
Yeah, we could all agree on that. What I'm saying is that in our
Okay.
in our day and age, black people are still not being treated the same. So we just can't just push this off to, it's the government or it's the people or it's this or it's that. Like, how do we fix this issue at the end of the day? What the government did to black people, which is why which is what the is the main reason why black people are in the condition that they are in today. How do you fix that?
I so I don't think that the African American community is in the position it is today because of acts that happened, 50, 60, or 100 years ago.
How do you explain the projects?
So there are, again, like you said, projects. Typically, you're talking about African Americans that are in, or let's say other cultures that are in economic areas of disparity. There are also white groups of people that are also very, very poor in economic areas of disparity. So I think back to the question of like where everyone should be treated equal.
No, wait. Let's go back. I understand that there are white areas that are poor. The black areas that are poor were made deliberately poor, and we know that. It's documented that those areas were made deliberately poor. So
And I think we
so
should
why
both
shouldn't that be
agree that's
fixed?
wrong. I think we should both agree that's wrong, right?
Right. So that was wrong for the government to do. So they should fix that, right?
Again, it's a basis of time. When did this specifically happen?
This it happened over the course of decades, man. Like redlining wasn't made illegal up until like the early 70s.
Early 70s.
Yeah, the early 70s is when redlining was made illegal all over the country.
Then
Like
what
Boston still had
recommend-
redlining until like 1971. So did Baltimore.
So then I would just recommend investing heavier into areas of economic troubles, but mostly in the education and infrastructure.
So reparations?
If that is the form of reparations that you would like to talk about, yes. I'm just opposed to the idea of, let's say, the government writing a check to every African American based upon the basis of their skin.
It just won't be upon the basis of their skin, though. It would be based on everything that we're talking about.
I can almost guarantee you that hypothetically, if every African American got $10,000, right? Let's say that was the reparation. I'm just picking a number. Happened yet? It happened tomorrow. This would not fix any sort of economic disparity. It would probably last a relatively short amount of time because typically it's a matter of education on how to utilize money that equates to long lasting economic growth.
Black people know how to use money.
I'm not saying that black people don't know how to use money. I'm saying people that have, and typically in areas of less financial stature, can also have less educational stature because of the investment there, or the culture there. So this can be black, this can be white, this can be any race.
I'm kind of lost.
What I'm saying is that if everyone got handed like a $10,000 check, within a matter of pick it a year or two, nothing's going to change.
Sure it will. Yeah, you'll have plenty of people who are starting new businesses, plenty of people who go back to school. Folks gonna be paying off their debt, or they'll spend it back into the economy, and clear up any, like I said, any bad debt that they have, anything, et cetera, or buy homes, put down on homes. Sure it would.
See, I just I don't see it because let's take for example the stimulus check that everyone received back when COVID happened. I mean, did anyone's financial situation really change based upon the stimulus check?
No, because it was what, like $2,000.
Okay, and I mean, what are we talking about for a reparations price, for instance? If you had to ballpark,
If I had to ballpark it, I would say every African American should receive around $40,000 to $50,000, or at least their family should, every single year.
Every single year.
Every single year.
Okay. So without even arguing like if this is right or not, where is this money coming from?
Government.
Okay, but you can't just say government. Specifically, where is the money coming from? Is it coming from taxpayer collected funds?
Yes, and we could discretionary, about 47% of discretionary spending goes towards the military. We could cut that down to about 30%, and we can also reform the tax code as well. For example, you can go ahead and do something called like reverse taxation. That was actually an idea by Milton Friedman. You can do reverse taxation on African Americans, so all the taxes they pay out through the year gets rebated back to them.
Okay, and so here's the question then. Let's say I was born in 2001, and my neighbor who was black was born in 2001, right? So does that person deserve different treatment based upon the color of their skin, contrary to me?
I'm not sure. You keep saying I'm on different
it's
treatment.
Like I am paying for the sins of people in the past.
You ain't
Even
paying
though
nothing,
I
bro.
did nothing wrong. Yes, I am. My money that would have gone to areas that would have been mutually beneficial for every race is now getting redirected directly to a specific race and giving them benefits.
Because the money that's being spent is not mutually beneficial to every single race. That doesn't happen.
Let's go back to the defense idea, right? I mean, all that money that's going into defense, who is it for?
Yes, for the
It's
United
to-
States.
It's to protect everyone that's in the United States unless everyone is benefiting from it, right?
No,
You don't think that defense, you think the defense is specific to race?
it's not. It's not specific to race, but it doesn't benefit us. It doesn't even benefit you.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Absolutely.
It benefits Boeing. It benefits military contractors. It benefits them. It don't benefit us.
If we did not have defense, we would not have the standing that we have in the world order, but also the security that we have to live the way we do as Americans.
The reason why we have the standing that we do is because of the Monroe Doctrine. We just went around like attacking or regime changing all these other countries in South America. That's the reason why we have
Again,
what we do. And the Cold War as well.
yeah.
That's the reason we have what we do. Because of the Cold War and because of regime changes.
I'm not going to say everything that the United States does is great and right or wrong. Okay, I get it. I think it's a net benefit. I'd say the United States is a net benefit. But again, going back to like this is just blatant discrimination. If someone's getting a better, someone is getting a better life than me based upon the color of their skin, even though nothing happened to them. They were born the same day. They were born, 5 years ago. I was born 5 years ago. This is the hypothetical. Nothing happened to them to deserve this $40,000 a year. Why can't I get $40,000 a year?
So,
Like, what did I do?
so essentially the same thing that already happens now. That's what white privilege is. Like you understand that's what that is, right? You don't think that exists?
Does white privilege exist?
Yeah,
No, I don't think so.
it does.
How?
Were your grandparents redlined?
Again, please let's bring
it's
it back.
It's a yes or no.
I would say no, but back to
There you
what
go. There you
Take
go.
place.
So your life
Today.
wasn't made harder just by being white.
Today. Let's go to today.
Yeah.
Today's
Let's go.
society.
Okay, let's go to today.
For instance, for yourself, were you redlined as an individual?
I probably was. I'm not even sure. I probably was. But let's ask this question. Let's go
You were
to
redlined? Did you say that ended in the 70s?
in 71. Yeah, but just because the law is no longer in
Then
effect,
how
just
old were
because
you in
just
71?
because the law is no longer in effect, that doesn't mean that people won't still do it.
Then those specific people should be punished.
Correct.
Absolutely.
But what
I
I'm
agree
saying,
with you.
what I'm saying is
Not
about
the
what I'm
entirety
saying-
of
what
civilization.
I'm saying about white privilege is that you don't have to worry about something like that. You don't have to worry about when you go into a bank and sign up for a home mortgage that they may reject you just because you're white. I do.
and I would agree, if someone is discriminating you based upon the color of your skin, they should be held accountable.
But what I'm s-
Absolutely.
All
In
right, but
today's society.
crucial. What you're not understanding is you just said that you don't think white privilege exists, but you agree with me that's something I have to worry about. That's what white privilege is about.
So I don't think it exists. And in specific instances where racism happens, those should be dealt with.
That's
I don't
what
think
white
there's-
privilege is about, bro. That's what it's about. You don't have to worry about racism.
I just don't think it's as prevalent as you're making it out to be. I think it's a very minor area.
So why does every study and research out there shows that African Americans are still affected by racism in housing, racism in healthcare, and racism by the criminal justice system? Every single study shows that it still has measurable effects. If
I
what you
would
said
have
is
to-
true, it still has measurable effects. Then what does that tell you? As a matter of fact, let me bring up something that I brought up the other day. Did you know that when black babies are born, they're more likely to survive if they're taken care of by a black doctor versus a white doctor?
I don't know that, and I'd have to see the study. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, to be honest with you.
Yeah, sure. Give me a second.
Also, one thing I will say is that if we continue to treat one another as different individuals based upon the color of our skin, nothing will ever change. So the only way in order to enact equal rights for all is to just treat all equally. Period.
Yeah, we should, but that isn't happening, which is why we have to fix a lot of things. All right, so I'm not sure if you can see this, but here we go. A large body of work highlights disparities in survival rates across black and white newborns during childbirth. We posit that these differences may be ameliorated by racial concordance between the physician and newborn patient. Findings suggest that when newborns are cared for by black physicians, the mortality rate they suffer as compared with white infants is halved. Strikingly, these effects appear to manifest more strongly in more complicated cases when hospitals deliver more black newborns. No such concordance effect is found among birthing mothers, which means that when black babies are born and they're taken care of by a black doctor, they're twice as likely to survive than under a white doctor. So if there's no, if like you said that you don't think that the racial issues that I'm bringing up is as pronounced as I think it is, but this shows that children, the most innocent creatures out there, are dying because of racism.
Again, I don't know enough about to make a statement on the validity of this or to even make a statement about the subject at all, to be honest with you. So I don't know if I really have any stance or box to preach on for this one.
All right, no, that's fine. The only thing that I want to show you was that this is still a major problem, and we see it. And this right here, the death of babies, like, shows that. That's all I'm trying to say. It's still a major problem. It's not a small problem.
So if righting the wrong of slavery is by treating one group unequal to another, won't that just lead a continuous chain of one being treated wrong and then needing to be reformed because of it?
We're not talking about treating one group better than the other or unequal to another. What we're talking about is repairing the damage that was caused, and one of those damages was monetary.
Again, back to my example, if I have a peer that's African American and he gets paid $40,000, his life is far better than my life because I don't get $40,000. And it's discrimination based upon skin color.
No, it just isn't. It just isn't. All right, we've been on for about 30 minutes. Give me a second, y'all. I think some people want to join. Kay and Issa and Caddy, I know you guys want to join. I'm gonna bring y'all up in a bit. All right, because we've been on for 30 minutes.
The conversation though, so I don't mean to. I'm glad that we didn't get hostile, and I appreciate.
Yeah, not a problem. I'm not sure if Kay is still in the comments, but I'm gonna invite her up in a second.
Hey, you mind if I speak something crucial here?
Go ahead.
One of the things you got to understand is history directly affects people, and it has always affected people. Colonizer capitalism and the fact that you come from colonizers is and does affect your wealth, and it does affect how you make your wealth. And the majority of wealth is still in white people's hands, and that is a true statistic. And so when we talk about wealth equality, we're talking about the fair distribution of wealth in fixing corrupt capitalism, which means wronging some of the, fixing some of the wrongs. And by doing reparations, by giving at least like 30 acres to people who can prove their ancestry and everything else like that, helps fix these wrongs and equal the playing field so that people cannot be a victim of systematic racism and systematic oppression. So the fact that you don't see it, that you don't understand how history affects people, you're that's your white privilege. That's your privilege. You don't have the same type of discrimination things that you have to go up against. And you don't have the same type of issues and problems that they have to face day to day, systematically. So it becomes a huge problem when there's this cognitive dissonance between why you can't relate. And the reason why you can't relate is because you haven't accepted your own privilege. And that in part is the problem, is to recognize that systematically, yes, the colonizer has set up a system that is colonizer capitalism that benefits the white man. And it's hard for you to swallow that pill because you believe in this fair equality thing that they're telling you is not happening. It's not happening how it's correctly supposed to happen. And that's the problem with a lot of things, man. That's a problem with this society, is it takes this dualistic approach, this good versus evil approach, this, you know what I mean, this haves and have-nots, and it has a classism problem. And Martin Luther King was a person who was going to tackle this classism problem of wealth inequality, and he was killed for trying to do so. So this is a very severe problem. And you want to talk about other problems like redlining and the Daughters of the Confederacy, those type of problems. Those are historical problems that still affect education today. And so you have to understand the past does affect the present in large ways. And that's all I'm going to say. I don't mean to be irate.
But Cody, I just want to say this, right? Hey, Vosi, by the way.
Hey, Caddy. Hey, Caddy, how's it going?
So, two things. So, a few things. One, I'm African American here. And let me tell you a little story, right? Let me just get this out, because the things that just happened on this panel mind blew me. So crucial. When my grandmother, all of my aunties up until my dad was born, mind you, all of my family, had to go to segregated schools. All of them, every single one of them. I am literally, me and my cousins are the first generation in our entire family to be removed that far, to be a generation removed from Jim Crow. So the things that you are saying, not only is asinine, it directly, it is offensive, because so many people in this lives, families, have been affected by that. My grandmother has told me stories of friends that she knows when they were children and they were little girls in Tennessee. I don't know if I can say this word, but I'll say the 3 letters, KKK,
Mm-hmm.
and would literally burn crosses in front of their yards. My grandmother's friends can still remember the smell of burning flesh of them growing up, I can't say that word, but unalivings of black people by trees. And you're going to sit here and tell me, and tell the people who are the grandchildren of those people and the great grandchildren of those people that with all the systemic inequalities that happen, like Volsi brought up, how black babies are affected. I'm like, the maternal health death. That's a whole other conversation. When we're going to apply for jobs, when we're going to apply for housing, all the things he mentioned, and sit there and say with your full chest that you do not have white privilege. Asinine.
No, all I'm saying is that if we want to be treated in a culture where
I'm like,
everyone,
but we're not treated equally though. I'm
well,
like, and the fact of the matter is, that you could come up and put your fucking pale, thin lips and open them and say, look, I don't think you understand. Even me as a child, when I was a child, I'm like, the amount of times I was sent home from school in 2007 and 2006. You want to talk about a child born in 2001? How about the children who were going to school during that time? Who couldn't go, who had troubles, who were sent home for the day because our hair was deemed a distraction.
so I'll just
Because I'm literally having white teachers tell me that they think that I stole something because and accusing me, and and because they had the stereotypes, because I came to school with cornrows, that I was inherently criminal at 10.
Crucial before you even start speaking, because you have tried multiple times to speak and you're speaking in a really idealistic way. Of course, we all know that we should be treated equally. We are all very aware of that, but that is not the reality that we live in. We don't live in that reality. So I have a couple things. I have a couple things that I wanted to, I wrote down while I was listening to you. One thing I noticed was you majorly centered yourself big time in this. You kept talking and then had the audacity to say that Black Americans receiving money for reparations would be discrimination against you. When people like Volsi and I, our parents immigrated to this country, so we aren't eligible. We wouldn't be eligible for
But
reparations.
I would.
Exactly, but we would pay it. So if we are also paying it, how are you being discriminated against? Two, I have to ask, one of my questions while you were speaking was, I wanted to know how many generations of your family have lived in the U.S.
That's a
okay.
good question.
So a couple of things.
No.
One-
I want to know.
Answer
Just answer the
'cause she's
question.
a
No,
mom.
How
no,
many?
I
Yeah. No. You're
yeah.
going to answer the question. Otherwise, we're just going to let you go.
Give
How
me
many
one.
I
Give me
will
one.
straight up drop you if you
Yeah,
don't answer the question.
Give me one second, y'all. Caddy, I'm gonna drop you real quick just so we're not too cluttered. But I appreciate you being here. All right, you could come up anytime. Appreciate you.
No problem.
I'm
Alright.
happy to answer the question just really quick.
I just want to know because I want to make my point. I want to know how many generations your family, because I can't make my point without asking how many generations your family have been in this country.
Can I ask that we not cut each
Okay,
other
let's
off?
just assume that your family's been here
I've
since
tried to be very
since the-
respectful and let you
So
guys
I'm just
talk
going to go
and
ahead
not
and assume.
interrupt.
I'll assume
But you
that.
guys
I'll
keep
assume that your
interrupting
family's
me.
been here since the early 1900s.
Why are you guys allowed to interrupt me? And
I'm like, because we're mods.
Because they're mods.
That's why.
I'm gonna
we're
go ahead and
moderators.
assume.
So here's how this is going to work. We're moderators, both
Mhm.
Issa and I. So you're going to answer the questions. I'm like, when we're asked. So you have one more chance to answer the question. Answer them directly. Do not skate around the bush. I'm going to drop you. Because
And keep in mind,
what you already said was offensive to me.
we listened to you for 35 minutes.
We
So
listened
just
to you
answer
for
the questions.
35 minutes, and I had to sit in the comments listening to you for 35 minutes saying the most asinine, disrespectful, and offensive things about African Americans. Like Issa said, Volsi and Volsi, I'm like, so they're not as affected by what you said as I am. I had to listen to that, and while remembering the stories of my grandmother. So
Right.
you can answer the question directly.
Because you keep talking about this as if it's ancient history when we're literally, I'm 45 years old. In fact, my father came to this country in 71 and he still experienced segregation. So this isn't like, we're not talking about.
And that's a decade after it ended.
Exactly,
Legally.
because he lived down south. That's why.
My parents came here.
Oh yeah, that would make sense.
In the year I was born in '87. In the year I was born, the KKK actually came down to South Florida to protest Haitians living around white people. This was in 1987, the year I was born. So this is not that long ago, my friend.
So
When I was born,
xenophobia, racism, anti-blackness, all of that affects their personal histories, but Jim Crow affects mine, like
Exactly.
directly.
Exactly. So, Crucial, go ahead and tell, if you wouldn't mind answering my question, how many generations have your family been in?
And answer directly, I'm gonna drop you.
I believe 2 generations. But if you guys want to have
Okay.
a conversation, you have to let both
I'm
parties
like,
talk.
No, no,
we
no, no,
can,
no. We're
we
not
can
trying.
let you
We're not trying to
talk,
have a
but you're gonna
conversation.
answer it directly. So I'm like, so
So,
your family has been here for 2. Meanwhile, my family has been here definitely more than 2, because Black Americans have been here for more than 2 generations.
yeah, I want to make a
You
point
do
with
know
that,
that,
though,
right?
because he's obviously white tea, so his family has been here for 2 generations. Let's go ahead and call that 100 years, right? So that means 1925, your first, what do you call it? Your first descendant was here in the U.S. Do you know how much your family has been able to gain in that 100 years time that African American families have not been able to gain?
What
Having been here even longer?
what have I gained? Me personally, what have I gained?
Who's talk? Why are you centering yourself?
Because
Again,
because this whole conversation, you're asking about my opinion.
None of us are talking about ourselves individually.
Yet
I'm like,
all
not
the
even me.
con-
You're
I'm like,
talking
I'm
about the
talking. I'm like, 'cause
system.
you're talking because this whole conversation you've been talking about my community.
Not only that,
directly.
but this whole conversation, he is literally, why do I have to pay? Why do I didn't do anything. I. It's not about you. Take
I'm
yourself
like,
out of it.
I'm like, and the fact that you can even make with the things I just mentioned, slavery, Jim Crow, redlining. I'm like the unaliving of Black babies and women in hospitals. The fact that you can even make that about you is literally asinine.
No, the only reason
Because
why
if you're going to make it just about yourself, if you're going to make it just about you, and you shouldn't have to deal with anything that you didn't inflict harm upon, does that mean if your family leaves you an inheritance, you shouldn't be able to gain that inheritance because you didn't work for that money yourself?
Meanwhile,
can
but
can I
also keep in mind, hold on, Crucial, because I also want to bring this point. Your family has been here for 2, so like she said, 100 years. So your family has been able to benefit off of my families,
Exactly.
off
And
of my
still are.
family and African American families building the country that your family has been able to live in.
Because guess what,
And the
Crucial?
same government I'm like that we are under. Literally, I'm like in 1865 when slavery was initially abolished. I'm like was offering the descendants, the children, and the slaves themselves of those people who are descendants of those people, literally 30 acres and a mule, and they did not fulfill that promise. And I'm like, and all of the things that happened after, like we named Jim Crow, redlining, all
Crucial, you want to know something interesting? I'm Black, and I have gained from the legacy of slavery, Black codes, and Jim Crow. Just being able to be here in this country, I have been able to gain from that.
exactly.
So you being a white tea man who's had multiple generations of family in this country, you've been able to gain significantly more. I'm not going to ignore that. I'm not going to pretend that I didn't gain and that I don't have privilege because of that.
So is it okay if I respond now?
Go ahead.
Depends on what you're going to, don't make it about you. Respond without making it about you.
Well, no, you just asked why do you keep bringing up myself and my perspective. I wanted to
Nobody cares
respond.
about you.
No.
Nobody cares about you.
I'm like, it's not about you. Stop centering
So
yourself and
The
if you are going
reason,
to
of
speak for
the
African
yourself,
reason,
Americans.
okay,
And that's your white privilege showing too.
it is. It's the privilege you say that you didn't even know
And the
existed.
same privilege you say you do not have, meanwhile, will look directly at the statistics that Devosi showed you and literally say that you don't benefit. Meanwhile, I'm like, and I don't know if you clocked this, Issa, but came up here talking about how people shouldn't be like discriminated against based off their skin color and all this. Everyone should be treated equally. Meanwhile, denies that he has white privilege in the same breath.
Yes, and also I just want to. I won't say.
Like in the same instance where he's showing Black people not being treated fairly.
I won't say anything else after this because I do want him to respond. But I do want to add that not only have you centered. Never mind. It completely left my mind. But shit.
Yeah.
Just please, whatever you respond, please don't center yourself.
Yeah,
Okay, can I ask at least when I'm responding that I don't keep getting interrupted? Because I'm
Oh, I remember
respectful.
though. I remember though.
I'm
What I was gonna
respectful
say
and I
is
don't
no.
interrupt you
What I
guys.
was gonna say. I remember what I was gonna say. What I was gonna say is that I think it's very audacious of you to come up here and speak on a topic that you were obviously not prepared to talk about. Because even when you were shown statistics, you said that you didn't believe that racism was as prevalent as as it obviously is. And when you were shown
Asinine.
statistics, hang on, and you were shown statistics, and you wanted to uh, uh, say you didn't know anything about it, that you would have to read about it when there are tons of statistics. So my thing is, why come
But
up
the
here
fact,
and
but
have,
here's
hang
the
on,
thing,
hang on,
Lisa,
hang
the
on,
fact
please,
that he
please,
don't
please,
know about it is
hey,
white
hey, stop,
privilege.
please. My thing is, why are you going to come up here and have a conversation about something you're uninformed about? So go ahead, and I won't say anything else.
Okay, can we agree not to interrupt each other at least?
Bro, go ahead.
I'm like, you can, don't censor yourself.
Well, I'm just asking because I've been respectful and haven't interrupted you guys, and I don't want to start going into my train of thought and then you guys interrupt all of a sudden.
Yes, but don't center yourself. Don't do make whatever point you have to make without using yourself as the direct example.
So here's the response. So reparations, if it were to happen, would be conducted today, which means that everyone that is living today would feel the effects, including myself, of reparations. Right? So it does involve me today because it would happen today. We're not talking about the past, right? So that's the only reason why I bring it up from my perspective, because I would feel the effects of reparations because it would happen today during my lifetime.
All right, cool. Do you
Paying
think it
for
would be?
roads affects me, but I don't have a car.
Yeah,
I pay for roads, but I don't drive. So what? Who cares?
I was also gonna say this. Oh yeah, actually that's a good point, Issa. Because even though it affects her and she doesn't drive, guess what? The roads benefit everyone, because if there were no roads, what would happen?
And the roads are for everyone.
The roads
right?
are for everyone, right? Exactly.
But reparations isn't.
Say that again.
But reparations isn't.
But it would benefit
Reparations
everyone.
Reparations is for equity.
It's called equity.
It would be unfair for them
No,
versus
it's not.
No,
it's
it would not.
making
Dude.
an unequal playing field.
Can I just put it
Equal.
this way?
How is it
If you
equal?
were on a track,
I didn't
if you were on a
receive
track
any
and you got to
benefits.
run the
I
first
didn't
100
receive
yards
any
without being
benefits for
stopped,
being white.
I'm sorry.
I didn't
Pause.
receive any
Pause.
money.
Pause. Everybody pause. Everybody
I
pause.
didn't
Everybody
receive
pause.
any
Pause. Pause. Be
houses.
quiet
I
real
worked
quick.
for everything.
Be quiet really quickly. All right, crucial. We've already explained this, how it benefits you being white. You do not have to worry about when you go into a job application, when you go ahead and sign for a mortgage, when you have a cop following you. You do not have to worry that these things will negatively affect you just because you're white. We do. You will never
So
live
you
in a
do
world.
then.
Yeah, you will never live in a world. At least in the United States. In the United States, you will never live in a
No,
world.
I will say the world, quite frankly.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I would say the world. Yeah, even Africa, which is crazy. But at
Only if
at
we
least
get into South Africa,
yeah,
that's
sure.
a whole other.
That's a
So
whole
I
other subject.
would
But I would say, hold
100%.
on, Crucial. Let me just finish. I would say, like, if we're talking about the United States specifically, we will never live in a world in the United States where you have to worry about you not getting a mortgage just because you're white. That would never happen to you. But it does happen to us. It happens to me, happens to Issa, it especially happens to Kay. That will never happen
you just
to you.
literally spoke about the what babies go through. You literally just went over baby survival rate.
And he's gonna sit there
Newborn
and
Black
say
children.
his children, if he has children with a white woman specifically, his children are more likely to last than either any of ours on this panel.
So
You
I-
want reparations,
if
but
black
we want to
people
be
are
able to
getting-
go through
I'm
life
like,
without.
hold on, Crucial, because Volsi,
Never
you're
mind.
right.
I'm done. I'm
It's
done
right-
because I can't. I'm sorry. I'm getting irritated because I just want to have a conversation without being like spoken over, and I think all of us should get that. But I'll drop because it'd probably be easier. Good night.
No problem, Issa. Appreciate you. All right, yeah. So we what I was gonna say, like, yeah. So we kind of already went through this, Crucial. Like, this is something that you understand, right? Like, being white means you have to worry less about these things. That's what the privilege is about.
So if black people get $40,000 a month, then I would rather trade my white privilege for $40,000 a month.
Well, I didn't say
would
40,000 a
rather-
month. I said
would
I said
rather be a black person getting reparations than have this quote unquote white privilege.
You would
I think
rather be
that's
a
a better life.
and every one of us would rather have that privilege.
yeah.
And that should tell you
So
something.
you
I
would
would
rather have
rather
white privilege than $40,000 a
yes,
month?
I would rather know that when I'm going into when I'm going to a job interview, not have to worry about them not hiring me because they don't like my skin color. I'd rather
Or
that.
even our hair texture, or our natural hair.
Mhm.
Well,
All of
I
these
guess we
things.
can agree that we would love to switch positions then, because I would love the money.
Is we are
Not
we
that
getting the money?
not that I would want to be a white tea person, because
In
I
this
love being
situation,
black,
no.
but
Well, in this situation, yes, I should say. But in Grandiose, I don't think that reparations is justified. Because again, it's affecting the people.
I'm like it is justified.
How
though, and we just display
let
how
me ask
it
this
is.
question. Let me ask this question. Let me ask this question. Crucial. How would African American families getting equity for what they were owed for all these years, how would that negatively affect you?
So my money would be directly going from me to them, or a portion of my money, aka through taxes. So I'm literally paying somebody else money.
Do you think your
because I'm
taxes
white
will
and they're black.
increase? Do you think your taxes will increase?
Again, the money has to come from somewhere. This is like
I just asked a yes or no question, bro. Do you think your taxes will increase?
if the budget for the United States has to increase because of reparations, then
No,
that
it
money
doesn't. We just have to
um,
allocate things to other places. My bad, I interrupted you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So if you're reallocating money, then theoretically, no, taxes would not increase.
Okay,
However, then the net effect of where my money goes is it helping me? Is it helping the country? Like,
Yes.
do I want my money
It's
helping
helping the
this?
country because
Yes.
it's helping the
Well,
it's helping the right wrong.
it's helping a minority in the country.
No,
It's
it
not
would help the
helping
entire.
entirety.
It would help the entire country. You know how?
How would it help me? Tell me how it would help me.
Because the about 15 to 20% of the United States budget is spent on servicing poverty, and the group that is more in concentrated poverty, other than Native Americans, are African Americans. So if you were to fix that, if you alleviate that poverty, a lot of the issues like entitlement spending, like policing, et cetera, that like putting more money into education, all that other good stuff. If you were, in health as well, if you were to alleviate poverty, that entire servicing poverty, that entire debt, all of it goes down. So that means that the society is better because more people have money. There are less crimes. There's less homelessness. Do you think like crime and homelessness is something that could affect you? I'm pretty sure it
Hold
could.
on. I would guarantee that the amount of money spent giving $40,000 a year in reparations is greater than the amount of money we spend on how poor people live at the moment.
Crucial within power
It
dynamics.
isn't
You
enough
talk about.
for-
Hold on. You
Hold
talk
on,
about.
Crucial. I'm like, hold on, Cody. Volsi, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Hold on.
Everybody hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Because
Okay,
you were
cool.
speaking and we couldn't hear you.
No, it's all good. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Crucial. You really think that alleviating poverty for the African American community, which is besides Native Americans, the community that's most concentrated in poverty, will not help the entire country? Really?
And I want to.
I'm not saying it won't help the entire
I'm like,
country.
Volsi,
but-
why
wanna-
can't I see your lips moving? That is so weird.
Oh, it's because I chew on the side of my lips. It's a
I
habit.
want to point out something real quick. You are, Chris, I want to point out something real quick.
Like
you want-
it's like a ventriloquist, but with no lips.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's because I chew the side of my mouth. That's why. Caddy, what was that? I'm sorry.
I wanted to point out something. You got one thing wrong. See, you are the minority because when you look at the statistics, the amount of mixed people that live on this country is higher than white people, and white people still have all the power and all the wealth. So you are, again, you're
I
missing
don't have
the
any
point of your
power or
privilege.
wealth. I don't know what you're talking about. What power or wealth do I
Talking
have?
about white power dynamics that is affected by colonizers. We white people are the colonizers of this country. They set up
how
the
do we
system.
know
They
that?
set up the government. So therefore, the power structure immediately affects white people. We have a leg up in the situation because we are the colonizer.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
just- I
that
don't
easy
agree
to
with that. I
comprehend.
don't agree with that logic at all. to be
Why
honest.
don't you agree? Because you don't want to come to terms with your own privilege.
Yeah,
This is
I
not
don't
true.
know.
I just believe everyone should be treated equal and they should be paid on their merits, not
Bro,
based
we
on
not
agree with that.
happening.
We agree with that. We agree with that. Everyone on this panel agrees with you 100% that all of us should be treated equally no matter what our skin color is. What the issue is that in reality, that's not happening. So we should fix that, right?
So that's not happening. So that means that black people should be treated better than me, a white person.
You're not gonna
Like,
be
so
treated
righting
better if
the
they get
wrongs that are
reparations,
past
bro.
means that black
If they
people are
get
being treated
$40,000 a
better
year,
when the majority of the
absolutely
wealth
they
in the
get treated
country is
better.
held by white people? What are you talking about?
No,
And
it's not.
and a lot of that wealth is also due to slavery too, mind you.
What money? Where is this money that I apparently have? Because I would love.
I didn't say
access
you
to this
had
money.
it. I said the majority of the wealth in the country was held by white people. I didn't say you specifically.
It's not you specifically. It's on average, white families have more wealth than black families, and there's a reason for that. It was made deliberate. So we should fix that, right?
So we should fix that by enacting discrimination.
No,
Got
we
it.
should fix that by.
Discrimination. That's not discrimination.
That's not discrimination.
Paying somebody
They're not-
based
I'm
on
like,
the
you're
color
not-
of
hold
their
on,
skin.
40
because
acres
I'm
was
not about to
promised.
let
40
you
acres was
pull
not
this
delivered. So
foolishness.
therefore,
No.
you know, a 40 acres was promised and it was not delivered. So therefore, it has to be delivered to fix a wrong. That's plain and simple. Crucial. It's plain
Hey,
and
I
simple.
have a. I'm sorry, y'all. Give me a pause real quick. I have a good question that's over on my YouTube. Panda ask, how the allocation of his taxes affect him. How does the allocation of your taxes affect you?
So the money that is directly taken from my taxes
Appreciate you,
should
Panda. Thank you. Go ahead.
goes towards the communal effort of progressing the entirety of the United States and its people and its interests. So
It
artificially
already
taking,
doesn't.
so taking that money that should have gone towards the betterment of everyone and allocating a certain amount to it to betterment a subdivision of everyone is not that's discrimination based upon skin
No,
color.
it's called equity.
Yeah,
I-
because the
I
In
money
this case, it's equity.
the money that's being allocated now does not even benefit everyone. Because
First of all,
yeah, that's the first thing. It doesn't even benefit
that's why I
everyone.
was saying it doesn't already.
I agree that there's waste and fraud and we got to get rid of it. Totally.
Right.
But
Great.
first of all, second of all, allocating a certain amount of money and like to a certain group that have been historically and systematically disadvantaged, and and giving them a certain amount of money to laying the playing field is not discrimination. It's called equity. That's what that's called.
So if the
And
roles were reversed and white people started getting $40,000 a year,
white people have
You
not been
wouldn't be angry?
systematically disadvantaged. White people have
you
been.
were not a slave. You were not systematically disadvantaged.
I'm like, no.
Hey, Crucial. We already went through this. Was
We
redlining a
already
thing,
have
bro?
gone through this. So we're not
Redlining
about
is
to
not
do
a
this.
thing for any of you. For not you. and
Redlining-
Did
her.
it exist for African Americans? Yes or no? Like K already. Like
Did
you-
it? Did it affect you? Did it affect
Yeah.
her?
Yes.
No, you weren't in the. You were not in the.
Yo,
position to buy property.
Crucial.
I'm like,
Crucial.
the fact that our families were starved of wealth because of redlining directly affects us.
No, it doesn't.
Hey,
I-
hey,
It
hey, Crucial,
does.
Crucial,
I
Crucial,
disagree.
I'm like, the
Crucial.
wealth gap between black families and white families, and there's a large gap. Literally, is affecting black. Redlining.
it
Hey,
doesn't.
Crucial. Hey,
still
Crucial. Hey,
affects black
Hey,
You're
families.
just nursing
everybody pause.
yourself.
Everybody pause. Hey, Crucial. Where did I tell you that the neighborhood that I grew up in when I grew up in Miami? Did you hear where I grew up at?
I don't think I was in that.
Okay.
conversation.
When my parents first came over here, and for about the first half of my life until I was about 12 years old, I lived in Little Haiti. Do you know what Little Haiti is?
I do not know.
Little Haiti is a community in Miami, and my parents had to live there because no one else let them rent anywhere else, and no one else let them buy a house anywhere else. Do you know why?
I assume it's this red line.
Exactly. So the same thing I'm pretty sure happened to Kay, or at least her grandmother.
Did,
Am I right,
did
Kay?
red line affect you?
I'm like, it happened to my grandmother and also and my, as well as my cousins, my aunt, like pretty much all of my family have been affected by Jim Crow
Redlining
and the
and-
redlining.
So, can I ask you a question? Do you know about Black Wall Street? Yes or no?
Black Wall Street. I am not familiar with the term.
Okay, Black Wall Street is where a predominantly black community, when segregation was going on, had a great majority of wealth and they were flourishing. But then a dispute between a elevator shaft manager and a white woman took place, and the whole city got turned upside down, and both sides of the track started to fight each other. And you know what happened? The government turned around and bombed Black Wall Street. They bombed a black city because it was gaining a lot of wealth, and because they were gaining economic wealth and power. And let me go further. you know that this redlining that we're speaking of, right? Well, if you look at the poor communities and where poor communities are and where hoods and other places are in America, you will see that redlining goes around this. And you know what? In some areas, they're environmental hazard areas where there's either there's too many factories being brought up around them to hurt their water supply, or to in hazardous areas like New Orleans, where the levees have always been a big danger, and the levees have always been a huge threat, and they knew about it, and they always have known about the levees being a problem. But this is where they like to congregate most of the people who are below the poverty line. So this is also a wealth caste issue, and it's a wealth power dynamic issue. And who started the American system? The white man. So therefore, when we talk about capitalism and we talk about how it benefits the white man, it really does. And you don't want to admit to that because you are about what about you-isms over here. And you're too focused on the I. You have no self-reflection of how the history affects the present and still does to this day.
I just
For
don't
you,
think
you
the
live in an
history
imaginary
I
bubble.
don't think
You live in an
history does
imaginary
that.
bubble where history don't affect people, especially
don't
you,
think
you have
history
zero
does affect them
education
as
on
well.
black history. You have zero education on black history, African American history. And I suggest you get some so you can stop coming up here with these what about me's and this white privilege that you
Yeah,
haven't
I'm about
cracked
to
yet and
like-
figured out.
Yeah, because I gotta get out of here soon in the first place. So the last thing I would say, crucial, is that history does not happen in a vacuum. Okay, history affects you. What happens to your grandparents will likely affect you. It does not just happen in a vacuum.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Exactly. So when you say
What happened
red
to my
line, so when you say
grandparents
red,
doesn't
when you
affect
say
me.
when you say red line didn't affect us, you're wrong, because redlining happened to our grandparents, and some of us happened to our parents.
Again, what happened to my parents and what happened to my grandparents didn't affect me.
That's you.
I'm like-
All good for
I'm like,
you.
and
It
that
didn't
is-
affect
No,
us.
it doesn't
guess
affect a
what?
person. A person.
It didn't affect you. It affected us.
Dude, if my
affected a
parents or
whole
my
group of people.
grandparents
It
were
didn't
good-
affect you. It
I'm giving you
affected
the
us.
hypothetical. If they were redlined, my parents or grandparents, it wouldn't have affected me regardless.
Yes, it would
That's
have.
not true.
No,
That's
it
not
wouldn't
true.
have.
What? How do you explain
And
the
that's-
projects
and you
then?
will know that because guess what? White people were not redlined.
Dude, everyone can make their
How
life
do
look
you
different.
explain the projects? This is the last question I'm gonna ask because I gotta get out of here anyway. How do you explain the projects?
How do I explain areas with less wealth? Is that what you're
Yeah.
asking?
No.
No, the
See, you're
projects,
looking
the hood.
disingenuous.
How do you
The
explain it?
hood.
Compton,
And
the
don't
wards
bring
of
up
New
poor white
Orleans.
people either.
Yeah,
I
Compton,
would-
the
I would
Magnolia,
probably
O
say-
Block,
And
Brooklyn.
I'm like-
How
and
do
I'm
you
like,
explain it?
before he said
I
the
would
word,
probably
he didn't
say
bring up poor
culture and
white people,
entitlement.
because poor white
There you go.
even in that
So
poor white
racism. I appreciate you being up for exposing your racism, because every time someone makes the culture argument, it always leads to racism. That's all it is. Every time.
Yeah, I had to get rid of him. I'm so tired of that foolishness. Like, no. Like, I had to, like, and I had to endure that in the comments for like 35 minutes. Like 35. Vos, I don't think you understand how horrible it was. Like, I'm like, and even in that, like, do people not know that generational trauma? Like, there's a little term for like called generation. So even we could talk about like the trauma of of African Americans specifically going through Jim Crow,
Mhm.
going through chattel slavery. It literally even has affected our genes. That trauma is being passed down through the gene pool. So just because I was not enslaved does not mean I'm not affected by my great grandmother who was. And the fact that oh my God, that was just so aggravating.
Yeah, I already know. Hey, Mirage, over on my Twitch, like, stop bitching in my comments, bro. If you're not gonna come up here and actually have a discussion, then stop all that whole ass crying. Like, for real. Like, I'm really tired of y'all, bro. Y'all would come up here and
I'm like, it's you know what's funny? It's usually your TikTok that gets active, not your Twitch.
yeah, my Twitch is active now. Like, it's like, look, stop bitching in my comments, bro.
Who's talking shit in your Twitch comments though?
It's some dude named Mirage, and look,
What
he
you saying?
now he just called me Uncle Tom, so now I'm gonna have to block him. because he just called me an Uncle
An
Tom.
uncle, like an Uncle Tom because you're defending Black Americans.
Crazy, right? I don't think he's I don't think he's even black anyway.
If he's not black, calling you Uncle Tom is just plain racist.
Yeah, it's just racism. If that's the case.
Now,
How you gonna block
on
people?
black people, it could be anti-black, but that depends context.
Mhm.
That even depends on context. Because, bitch, if we call Clarence Thomas an Uncle Tom, that's not anti-black, honey, and I don't care.
Yeah, because that's everything because
So context matters, but like, bitch, a whole fucking white person calling, no, they don't get to call you that.
exactly. Anyway, I went ahead and banned him.
And when it come up on your Twitch, can you like join a live on Twitch? Like, can you do that? I've never been on Twitch, so I don't know.
You actually can, but I just put my link in the box so people can join it that way. But yeah,
So
this is the second
link
time he's on
So
here.
the link to this live, like the TikTok.
Nah, it's like a link to something called Video Ninja, and with that, it's like another website where I add them onto there, and people across all the platforms can be able to hear it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So kind of like what that atheist guy does, like the one guy, like
Yeah, deconstruction zone,
the
exactly the
white-
same thing he does.
Because I had went on one of his lives, like
Mhm.
the atheist guy that you were talking about. I had went in there and I was like, because we were talking about atheism and somehow had race had came into it, and so I had mentioned like it was crazy like
Mhm.
the fact that I'm like that Christianity is so tied to like chattel slavery, and those of us who are affected by and it's not even just African Americans, like that's what actually even applied to you in the Caribbean.
Yeah, definitely.
Like because the slave trade also went to the Caribbean and like Latin America, and I'm like in all these places the black people are super Christian, and it mind boggles me.
Mhm.
Like the Afro Latinos are big into Catholicism. honey.
Yeah, very big into
They
Catholicism.
love their Catholicism. They love their child.
Yeah. All right,
the
y'all. I'm gonna
Catholic-
go ahead and get out of here, man. I got a headache. I was on that live with that guy for the past hour, yo. I think that's why I probably dropped out. But I got a headache. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. I am gonna go
Your
live
headache,
tomorrow.
I'm like,
though.
imagine how we felt in the comments.
Oh yeah, I already know. I already know.
Especially me. It took. I'm like, I was cussing him out in my head for 25 minutes of the 35.
Yeah, I know. It's like I let him go on for at least 20 or
And he
30 minutes. I'm
talking
like, I
about
gotta let somebody else go.
culture, and to bring up culture, like
That's
I'm like-
always a
like,
racist argument.
I'm like, it's always. I'm like, because let's be clear, like white people's culture is literally like appropriating everyone else's. First of all, second of all, white people are far from civilized. Like, let's not even play coy here. Like y'all needed black people and people of color to teach y'all how to wipe y'all fucking asses. Like y'all, I'm like y'all had diseases in Europe, honey. So let's not even play these games. Like majority of the diseases that are out here today literally come from Europeans.
Like
not
smallpox and all that shit.
Oh yes. So like, what the? I'm like, so I know he's not gonna pull the white supremacist myth of like white people and like basically being like more. What's the word I'm looking for? Like more like the civilized word, yes, and they're not. They're actually very barbaric. Actually.
Oh man.
I don't know. I don't know how you call a group civilized that literally would take their own children, specifically the women would take their own children to go to. Oh yeah, my grandmother told me about that too, honey. How y'all would take y'all damn kids to go to picnics, honey, where you would literally watch black people be
lynched. Exactly. All right, yo. I'm gonna go ahead and
all y'all little children that are now in office. Oh yeah, bitch, I know. All of us know the stories. All of us.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here, though. I appreciate you, though. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. I appreciate y'all.
And give your wife a big like foot massage, because you know.
Yeah, of course. That's why I'm ending here early, because I gotta go ahead and give her a foot massage. And I appreciate you all being here. I'm out, y'all. I love y'all. I'm out, y'all, and I love y'all. I gotta go ahead and do this little TikTok thing because for some reason they think I'm not here. But I'm out, y'all. I love y'all. Y'all are the greatest. I will be here tomorrow, same time. These 2-hour lives. If you are in my comments, hoeing and complaining again, I will invite you up, or I just will kick you off. And see y'all later. All right. Love y'all. Peace. Don't forget to subscribe to all of the socials. It's all in my comment, and it's a link in my bio. And don't forget to subscribe to me here on TikTok. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good night.